What's up, everybody? Art here for the Art of Fatherhood podcast online. I'm very happy to have Jeffrey Steiner. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me, sir. How you doing?
Excellent, Art. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I remember you guys were talking about you guys have the Dad Resource Center, and of course, people can go to dadsrc.org. We'll put up links in the show notes. We're going to be talking about the great work that your organization does. You guys, your team reached out to me during one of my podcasts and like, hey, we'd love to have Jeff talk to you. I was like, heck yeah, talk to great dads, talk about the good work that you guys are doing. So it's a no-brainer. So before we go into the good work that you guys are doing over at the Dad's Resource Center, let's talk a little bit about you and your fatherhood journey. Take me back when you found out you were going to be a dad. What was going through your mind, man?
Well, first off, going back a little bit further than that, I was an only child born to a single mother back in the 60s. And to this day, I couldn't tell you who my father was. And that has impacted my life significantly. I've been relatively successful, reasonably successful in life, but everything has just been harder for me than what it might have been had I had a father to show and teach me things and those kinds of things. I've learned a lot of lessons in life, the embarrassing or the hard way for not having had a father. So I always knew, I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be a good father and be a committed father and those types of things. But I didn't get married till a little bit later in life. Met my wife, Gwen, and we got married in '01, built our house in '02, had our oldest Alexa, Lex in '03, had our youngest Zoe in '05, got the dog around '06, you know, and off we go. So that's where we're at right now. We're happily married. Our two girls are in high school. And so in my first career, just another going back a little bit, I did direct services as a family counselor. So I worked in group homes with adjudicated youth for several years and then did family preservation work, which was basically social work for 10 years, working with children at risk of being placed outside of their homes. So I'm trained and have experience as a family counselor before my second career managing nonprofits that benefit children. And somehow my life's journey put me in the position I'm in now to be the executive director of the Dad's Resource Center. And it's like the culmination of all my life and all that I've done have rolled into that and this opportunity that I've been really blessed to have right now.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And, in the beginning, what you said, not knowing your father. And for me, I grew up having a mom and a dad, but I never thought I would be in this parenting space, right? I always thought like I'd maybe get into sports journalism or when I was really young, want to be an astronaut or, running back. Cause like, big fan of all those running backs growing up in the 80s and 90s. But then, as fate would have it, you start getting into this parenting world and this parenting space, and we're just trying to educate people on dads are parents too, and all of these good things, equal parenting, and and that's just not just on the dad side, but also lifting moms and dads all together. But like, and I learn more and more about this, and I think I'm becoming a better dad because I'm talking to other dads like you or other parents and being like, oh, that's a great perspective on things. But what you said right there, like I've had different people on the show, like Jeff Foxworthy, and other people who didn't grow up having a dad, and they were like, I wanted to break that cycle, and you are in that same boat where you wanted to break that cycle. And it seems like talking to you, like all of your history and where you're working, you're working with families, and now, of course, the Dad Resource Center, fatherhood and just parenting and just family just seemed like so huge for you, and you wanted to make sure that you were helping others where maybe you needed help as a kid. Am I right in that?
That's exactly right. That's driven my whole life through my work and things I do in the community. I just want to make the world a better place, help other people and those types of things. Absolutely.
Nice. And paying it forward is a great core value, and helping other people's are a great, core value. And just listening to your story in the beginning, I feel like that's something that you're looking to instill into your daughters as they're growing up. But what are some of the other core values you're looking to instill into them?
Well, I'd like to circle back to something you said relative to fathers and mothers. One of the things I tell people is the best thing you can do for mothers is be a good father and to promote fatherhood because parenting is a two-person job, right? There are
Yeah.
things that moms give their children that you and I can't give our children, right? And there are things that we give to our children that mom can't give to them, right? So it's a two-person job, and we need to have everyone actively involved in children's upbuild, both mothers and fathers, to have, give them the best shot at success. Uh, but
Well said. Well said.
yeah, right. I guess as a man, like integrity, um, you know, just how to. Yeah, when I bought my car, I took my daughter with me on the second day when I closed the deal. Uh, and I'm a poker player. I'm an infamously tight poker player. I don't put chips on that table, right? I'll play an hour or two before I play a hand, right? And so I had these people completely frustrated. I brought my lunch with me, which really pissed them off, right? They wanted to do good cop, bad cop, and all this other stuff. I'm eating my lunch, right? So, anyways, I brought her with me on the day when I knew I was going to close the deal. And as we left, she was like, "You were so mean to them." And I'm like, "No, I wasn't mean to them. I stood up for myself, you know." And that's the type of thing as a father you want to be able to teach your children, you know, how to interact with life, how to handle yourself in situations like that, and be a man, but be a person, stand up for yourself, be a woman, and be able to take on life and the things that you do in life. So,
So, just different values, like, paying it forward and all that good stuff. But like what you said right there, teaching them life skills is another great value, and certain things that, you know, you might not be taught in school or this or that. Like, there's no classes on how to negotiate a good car deal, right? There's nothing like that. And what you said, I love the fact that you brought a lunch there, and your daughter was probably like, "You're kind of mean to them." It's like, no, because if you don't stand up for yourself in the most positive way, and not like bringing someone else down, but you're just trying to be like, this is, I want to. I'm paying a big investment in this car, right? Most of us who have like will buy a car not using, like, as Randy Moss used to say, straight cash, homie. We're actually, going to put on a finance deal, right? So we're going to have to finance that car. And so you don't want to be swindled. You don't want to pay, like, I always think of like Seinfeld with like when Putty was there. He's like, yeah, there's undercoating. I'm like, undercoating? What is that? He's like, yeah, there's no such thing. We just make things up. I'm not saying all car dealers are corrupt. I'm just saying, like, there are certain things, because you don't know. They'll be like, well, the temperature glass installation is going to cost you about $100 more, and you're like, I didn't even ask for that, right? But like, just, you have to speak up for yourself, and especially, you're raising girls, I'm raising daughters. I mean, girls as well, and the fact that, like, you want to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of if they go, buy a car by themselves or something along those lines, right? So I love that. And that is something, what you when you took your daughter there, that is something that she has learned from you about staying up, for herself. Let's flip the script. What is something that your daughters have taught you about life or about yourself that you'd like to share with me?
oh wow, okay, that's a good one. Um, well, um, I'm a guy, and it just in our household, my wife, two daughters, the dog's a female, both the cats are females, the goldfish is a female. So like, and I'm in a barn, which is like a women thing, right? It's like a testosterone or a female. Anyways, like so, like I've learned a lot about um uh being around women and those types of things from everyone in my life at this point. So
Nice. So yeah, and I think it's good to like learn life from a female's perspective, just so you understand what they're going through. And it's funny you say that. So we have two daughters, my wife, and our two cats who are both female. So I'm always outnumbered. So just like you, I feel that being outnumbered, and I love it. Before we go into the Dad Resource Center, let's just talk a little bit about one more question for fatherhood. And obviously, Dad Resource Center is dealing with parenting and fatherhood as well. But for you personally, what is one big piece of advice you'd offer to new dads listening to this?
boy, um, I don't know about one piece of advice. Um, I just know I remember my experience when both the girls were born, and I'm sure you had this. I was in the room, and it just hit you in the heart. Like it was like a laser beam of energy that just, and I had never experienced that in my life. Like prior to my oldest daughter being born, I could watch a movie with someone running a lawnmower over puppies, and I'd be like, whatever, it wouldn't bother me. Like, but now, like, I get emotional. Like it's a movie, I'm crying in a movie, and I get all choked up, and like, so the one thing I always tell fathers is it's going to open up something in you that never existed before in your life when you have your children, because it just it's a whole new experience. So
No doubt. Yeah, I appreciate that. But right now, all I'm thinking of is like, the sequel to Lawnmower Man. It's going to be, Lawnmower Man, taking out the puppies or something. So it's just funny. Thanks for putting that in there. But now I appreciate you sharing your father journey. Let's talk a little bit about the Dad Resource Center. Talk to me about the work you and your team do over there, sir.
okay, so the Dad's Resource Center was founded by Dr. Joel N. Myers, who is the founder and CEO of AccuWeather in Center County, Pennsylvania, near Penn State College. And Joel went through some things in life, and he had the capability to be able to get his situation sorted out that most people do not have. And so when he got all that dealt with, he felt, I got to put something in place for single fathers, because single fathers, when they come in contact with the system, it's a meat grinder, as often as not. It's tough. And so him and another gentleman by the name of Mark Lynch, they're the primary people who got the Dad's Resource Center going. And then they brought me on board with my background to help bring it to life. And I've worked together with them uh, to make the Dad's Resource Center, which provides education, resources, and advocacy for single fathers. Now, locally in our area, primarily in surrounding counties, we provide coaching, mentoring, best practices for single fathers who are struggling to be in the lives of their children, whether it's issues related to custody through courts, involvement with children and youth, whatever it may be. And we also do a lot of statewide advocacy because that's our sweet spot, because we want to have systemic change, because that's the biggest impact that we can have for fathers overall. So I serve on some statewide organizations representing the Dad's Resource Center and fathers, and we're involved piece of legislation in the General Assembly for Pennsylvania to create a fatherhood commission for the state of Pennsylvania. We had it introduced in the House and the Senate in the last session. They're in a new session since the elections, and it's now just about to be reintroduced in the House again. So we're going to continue to work with a bunch of other father advocates throughout the state to try to have this fatherhood commission created, again, to help look at the system and make the system, for the lack of a better way of saying it, more father friendly.
Hmm.
Make sure that fathers aren't cut out of children's lives unnecessarily, because that happens all too frequently. It's unnecessary and it's pervasive to have children not have access to their fathers growing up in life due to all these different parts of the system once fathers somehow get behind the eight ball. So
Yeah.
that's what the Dad's Resource is and what we do in a nutshell.
Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing. Again, that's dadsrc.org for more information on that. And you know, I think you guys are trying to make it more friendly and more fair and equal for dads, right? And I know you've seen this, especially in the space that you're in. I see this too in different dad groups, or people reach out to different guest topics that I've had, or articles. They'll say like, my wife and I were getting a divorce, or my spouse and I were getting a divorce, and one day I come home from work and the children are gone, and so is she, and like I can't, like what do I do? And that's heartbreaking, right, for dads. Just because like if you get a divorce, like oh maybe stereotypically people are like, oh, it's just the dad, he probably did something, the husband probably did something, doesn't want to be there for the family or whatever the case may be, and you get that stereotype in there. What is something that if what are some myths that maybe dads think that that are portrayed out there in society that you can kind of share with my audience right now, that it's like it might be a myth but it's totally untrue, and fight for your rights for A, B, and C? I know it's kind of a generalized question, but I see on these different message boards or these different groups, like I think last week a dad was like, I don't know what to do, I'm beside myself. My wife and I separating, and they took the kids, and I don't even know where the heck they are. So like, how do like dads kind of cope with things like that?
Well, okay, and we always need to say this at the outset to be able to have this conversation. We all support domestic violence awareness, domestic violence interventions.
Yeah.
We're all in complete and total support of those types of things. People need to be safe in situations when they're dealing with dangerous people.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%. But there's a lot of studies out there that show divorces are initiated 70% of the time by women, right? And it's just one of these quips that people say, but it's true. Men fall into love, women fall into love quicker, but they fall out of love. I'm not saying that correctly, but when women in these relationships, for whatever reason, and sometimes it's because a guy isn't paying attention, isn't tuned in like he should be, or whatever, but they really check out earlier than men do most times once you get married. Because part of the foundation of a man is being the bulwark of a family. Women do a lot most of the work in different ways, but men are kind of just the cornerstone of a family. The father is. And so when you have a breakup of a family, one of the words in human services and the big things over the last decade they've talked about is trauma. And there's a lot of trainings, and everyone needs to know about trauma when they're working with people in the human services field. People don't recognize the trauma that a man has when his family breaks up, when it isn't necessarily directly of something that he did or that he doesn't want it to do. So what I see a lot of times, fathers want to try to reconcile, but the ship has kind of left the port, and there's just no way he's going to be able to pull it all together. And then men also tend to be very conciliatory in these situations for the sake of the children. They don't want things to be contentious, so they'll move out, get their own place, and those types of things. And they'll say, okay, well, you keep the kids. But when it gets in that, and a lot of people can work these things out on their own, okay. But when it gets contentious, then that disadvantages fathers because the precedent gets set. And once it gets set, it's hard to reverse those types of things. And so it's very difficult for fathers. It can be overwhelming, and it's almost like they have PTSD. A lot of the fathers that I run into, they're really there's a lot of trauma and pain there because at their very core, losing their family, questioning themselves, loss of the relationship with the person that they're with, feeling like a failure, and men are inclined, we don't reach out. We pick ourselves up our bootstraps. So it's hard for a man to reach out and ask for help when they really do need to talk to people about these things and reach out for help. And sometimes that actually is the first step that a man in a separated family has to take, is to go out to the resources that are out there, find people that they can talk to, find the support groups that are out there to get that support, because there have been a lot of people who've been through this that can help support them and figure things out and get on their feet.
Appreciate you sharing that. One more question before we go into the Fatherhood Quick Five for the Dad's Resource Center. So it's not just maybe separation or whatever the case may be, but if just and dads are needing maybe some outside help and just trying to, see the forest through the trees and just trying to get some help with you guys, that, and look for the help that you guys help, families and dads and all that good stuff. It can be very overwhelming, whatever the case may be, whatever they're kind of going through. What are some things, like if you give like three good tips on, if dads are looking for some help? Of course, going to your website is one, but like what are like three um pieces of advice you'd give dads who are looking, who maybe are struggling right now or whatever the case may be, especially this past year, and we're still kind of going through this pandemic right now, and it's just tough on everybody. What are three things that you would suggest dads doing if they're kind of needing help in the sense that you guys offer?
Well, if it's a contentious custody situation, one of the things Dr. Myers has said is, as a father, you need to be the best parent, best mom you can be. So you gotta uh, participate in all aspects of the upbringing as much as possible and be engaged in that. So taking the children to doctor's appointments or being aware of what's going on with them medically, because if questions arise, people are going to want to know that you know what's going on. Same thing with education and those types of things. So you really and I think we live in a day and age when you and I, we probably take our kids to the doctors and do things like that. That's what fathers mostly do now, anyways. But you really need to be on your game with that if it's in a contentious custody situation. Documentation is important. It's unfortunate, but the fact of the matter is, if you go to court, evidence of some kind, whether it's texts, emails, whatever it may be, documents, if there's some sort of incident that police are called or involved with, you got to have as much documentation as you have about your situation and track it, log things, because if it gets into court and back and forth with judges and lawyers. You need to have that information to give yourself the best shot to be able to dig yourself out and pull yourself into your children's lives. Um, and getting an attorney is very difficult. Attorneys are like anyone else. There's the A team, B team, C team, D team, and E team, right? The really, really bad ones, they're good ones. And you don't know when you get in these situations. Like if you're just going about your life and out of the blue, all of a sudden you're in a contested custody situation, you don't know anything about lawyers and those types of things. So you got to be real careful. You need a lawyer because if you get into a court hearing or something where the other side has a lawyer and you don't, you're bringing a plastic spork to a knife fight, right? You,
Yeah.
you absolutely need a lawyer if the other side has a lawyer. But I would say, and we do at the Dad's Resource Center, we do have a good page, information on how to find what to look for, the questions to ask when you go to get an attorney, because it's very expensive. And sometimes a father only has enough money to do that first round, $5,000, maybe $10,000, and it's your one shot. So you want to make sure if you get an attorney, you take your time, you do it right, and you make sure you're going to get someone who's going to do right by you, do right by your children, look out for you, not fold, not kind of just take your money and just do the nominal amount, then not answer your phone calls and you don't have the money to be able to pay them to do anything else. So if you need a lawyer, the Dad's Resource Center, we got a lot of good information there you can look at, but we definitely have some good questions and what to look for attorneys if it unfortunately has to come to that.
Appreciate you sharing that. Thank you very much for, Jeff, for sharing your fatherhood journey and then also the great work you guys are doing at the Dad's Resource Center. Now we're going to kind of finish off on a fun note. Fatherhood quick five. You ready, sir?
I hope.
Okay. Favorite family movie right now? What is it?
What on Netflix? There's a series, The Kids, all the monsters, and all of that. What is that? My youngest daughter and I watched the Netflix series Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. All right, cool, nice. Favorite family song, or is there a band or an artist you couldn't wait to introduce your kids to?
My oldest daughter, she's needs, okay, and so she's really, really into music. And so there's about a year period where she obsesses. It was Katy Perry for a while. It was Rachel Platten, but right now it's Levitate. So that's the song that she loves, and that me, mom, and her sister are like, oh my God, it's Levitate again. So Levitate.
Oh, love it. Describe the perfect family vacation. Where would it be?
Well, I don't know if it's perfect necessarily, but our needs daughter, her 18th birthday is in October. And because Zoe, it's all about horseback riding and all those other kinds of stuff. We talked to her, said, what do you want to do for your birthday? She said Disney. My wife just booked it last week. So we're going to Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and all of that end of September. So that's going to be the family vacation here in about 2 months.
Nice, very cool. Have fun with that. And then, okay, so when you have your own downtime, and I know it must be tough to get your own downtime, but do you have any hobbies, or what are you into when you have your own Jeff time? What is it?
Going to the gym, running. I got some poker I play here and there. I also serve. I'm elected official, the Board of Education for a local school district, and so that's very fulfilling and something that I enjoy doing a lot. So if it's school board work or working out, that's pretty much what I get outside of being here at home and the family and everything else that we do together.
Nice, man. That's fantastic. And lastly, top three words you hope your daughters would use to describe you as a dad. What would they be?
Oh wow. Okay. Integrity, honesty. Boy, I don't know. The third one. Tough to say, Art. Tough to
Okay.
say.
Hey, you're the guest. You can just have two if that's what you want. I'm cool with that, sir. I want to make it easy as possible.
Honesty and integrity, man.
Nice. Great two words right there. People, make sure you go to Dad's Resource Center at their site at dadsrc.org. Of course, put up links here at theartoffatherhood.net. Jeff, I want to thank you and your whole organization for what you guys are doing, especially in this dad space, parenting space. We need resources. We need sites like what you guys are doing in organization. So thank you very much for that, and I wish you and your family continued success, sir.
Very much appreciate Art. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you for doing this. It's a really cool podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you.